And let's go ahead and just jump right into the tier list. Just a forewarning for this survivor tier list. I don't play every single one of these survivors. This survivor tier list in particular is going to be made from the perspective of a hunter because I am a hunter main. So without further ado, let's get this tier list on the road. Acrobat, I'm going to put him in S tier. I think Acrobat's one of the strongest survivors out there right now because of how many crazy spots he can jump over. He's really strong on like Moonlit. He's really strong on Leo's Memory. Places where he can just jump off the ledge and make the kite just impossible for hunters to continue. There's some hunters that can get around it, like Lucino, who can also hop over obstacles, or Geisha. But for most of the hunters that I play, it's very difficult, especially if it's a first chase. So I think that Acrobat in general is just really powerful. He gets his bomb back, especially the ones for chasing, really, really quickly. And he gets a bomb for literally everything that he's doing. So it's very hard for him to run out of resources. Next survivor, Antiquarian. I don't think there's no contest here. Antiquarian is very, very powerful. I feel like she's the whole bag. She is the support, the harasser. She's the everything. Just her ability, she can kite with multiple different abilities that she has. So she has her spinny trick where that just lets her move faster. She can flip out a window so that she doesn't actually have to vault it. That's a big counter to like a lot of hunters that rely on that window touch, such as like Clerk or maybe even Bonbon that's trying to get her a bomb before she can actually get all the way through the window. And then obviously whacking the hunter and then stunning them for a good 12 seconds before they're able to attack again if she hits you all 3 times. That is just a nightmare to deal with. 12 seconds is a lot of time. Like, it's a ton. So I don't think there's any contest that Antiquarian belongs in A tier. Next up on the tier list is Barmaid. Barmaid is like, I think she's strong, but she's not crazy strong. If she is the first kite, I think most barmaids are good enough to be able to kite the first drink and then use her mini Dublin to escape out of most situations. Also, if she isn't the first chase, she can still use her ability to support. So I think that she has a lot of situations where she can be useful. Just the ability to heal while you're kiting or while you're decoding is very, very strong. It saves a lot of time, believe it or not. And she gets 2 of them. That's pretty great. If it was only 1, I might consider her maybe A-, B+. But the fact that she gets 2 and also like 1 mini Dublin to help her kite is actually quite good. She doesn't really have any downsides to it except for that like mini decoding debuff if she decides to drink it. But all in all, she is very, very good as a survivor. Solid pick. All right, next survivor, Batter. I think I'm going to put Batter in S tier. Yes, he has decoding downsides, and he has like, I think just the fact that he has 3 cricket balls is so crazy. Plus, he's an amazing kiter. Like, if you're amazing at kiting and harassing, I think Batter is really, really strong. I've been harassed by really good batters before. Like, there was this one clip of me hitting someone else, and then it sped the batter up because if anyone else takes damage, he just zooms right past you if he needs to. And the ball, it's actually quite a long stun. The fact that he can do it 3 times and pick up his balls, like, he can almost infinitely harass hunters. If he's careful enough with his abilities. There are certain hunters that just can't get around this ability. For example, Nightmare, who can only dash. If he times those balls correctly, Nightmare is never going to land a hit on him. Weeping Clown. B tier? I don't think Weeping Clown's that great. I think Weeping Clown has a lot of interesting situations that he can use to transition out of areas. Like, his rocket is really only good for transitioning. As a harassment tool, it's mediocre. Like you only get 3 of those, and the stun isn't for that long. The speed boost isn't that much, and the cost is decoding slower. Like 10% is quite a bit when it comes to Weeping Clown. I don't know if it's exactly 10%, but I know that he does have a decoding speed decrease. Unless he's like a crazy S tier character, I don't believe that most characters need a decoding speed decrease. It just makes them a little bit worse. But there's a lot of characters that can get around Weeping Clown's transitioning ability. For example, Hermit can just teleport on top of him, stun him off of it. Breaking Wheel is literally just faster than him. Claire can't really catch up. She can just walk up, but the rocket isn't that much faster. So although you will be able to transition to another area, if it's a Weeping Clown, I mean, you can just catch up to him, and he still has to kite in that area. He's not bad. He's not the worst, but like I feel like there's other survivors that are better than him. Okay, next survivor, Coordinator. I'm gonna put her in A tier. I think Coordinator's gun is really, really strong. And I know there's some people who, recently, I think I've been having some people push back on like whether or not the gun is that great. I personally think it's that great. Like, I don't normally like to take detention on hunters unless there's like a ton of stunners, but even then, most of the hunters have ways to deal with those kinds of abilities, but not the Coordinator gun. Aside from excitement, or if you try to dodge the gun, like a good coordinator with a gun, even if she's not firing it, if she holds onto it near your face, she kind of has a lot of pressure on you right there. Coordinator is also a really, really good kiter. If she gets near a window or a pallet, they recently buffed her to make her slightly faster, and it still throws me off to this day. Like, the fact that Coordinator can just move a little bit faster than you is really obnoxious. And the same goes for like a lawyer or something. Like that small speed boost, you'll never see it coming, and it throws a lot of hunters who are used to like base speed or waiting for an ability to happen for that to happen. Yeah, I think Coordinator is pretty versatile in most comps. As a rescuer, I know some people just take excitement just for her, but honestly, then the hunter has excitement and they don't have blink to down whoever it is. Like in a group comp, I think she is really good. Cowboy, let's see. I want to put Cowboy like A plus. So okay, let's do this from like left to right too, as in who the strongest ones are going to be on the left. So Cowboy, I believe, should be A plus tier. I know he just got adjusted recently, where his lasso isn't as good, but there's still a lot of really, really good uses for it. For example, him just kiting with the lasso is OP. He can transition from area to area really, really fast with the lasso. Not only does it pull him towards the area, but it also, for whatever reason, gives him a crazy movement speed boost when he gets to that area. So he'll lasso onto a pallet and then just zoom right through it. There's no hitting him. The second thing is the lasso can also act as an iframe. Imagining having flywheel on like a 4 to 5 second cooldown on his lasso. He can just constantly lasso back and forth on top of you. It's really annoying. It doesn't work every single time, but if you needed an iframe, you can use it to like avoid Naiad water, or you can use it to flip through windows if you line it up perfectly for a hunter. They can dodge it, but I think like a really good Cowboys can line up those situations to make it really difficult for them. On top of that, the lasso makes for really overpowered rescuings in certain situations, such as rescuing from chairs that normally are difficult to rescue from. So one example I can think of is, you guys know how there's all those little windows on the red church area that have bars on them, but they aren't technically, like, you can't pass through them, you can't vault them. He can actually lasso you through those little bars if he can see you. And I've had it happen to me a couple times before. It is extremely annoying to deal with. Even if he doesn't get the rescue half health back up when he lassos on you anymore, I think that the ability itself is still quite strong. The adjustment was, I believe, somewhat of a nerf, but it wasn't a crazy nerf that drove him to the ground. Like, he can still use it to kite, and he can still use it instantly in some cases. So I think Cowboy's definitely A+. Dancer, low-key A+ as well. I think Dancer is really, really strong. I think that with Dancer, if you just throw down all your 3 slow boxes and throw a pallet on top of them, it buys you so much time. Hunters hate this. When you just like put the box down in the middle of ever sleeping, throw a pallet on top of it, and then call it a day. Like, you can just leave it there, and then hunters cannot do a chase around those boxes, because just one slow box buys you so much time. So what dancers usually like to do is drop like all 3 of them just in the middle of ever sleeping and just cut around those. If a hunter breaks it, I think it takes like 6 to 8 seconds, even with the interaction speed decrease and the movement speed decrease, to break the pallet and then break the music box. Like, you bought so much time for whoever needs to transition out of there already. Or if the hunter just wants to get rid of it, like, you can literally just, if you put 3 of them down That's why 18 seconds, and then he still has to chase you and you're nowhere near him anymore. That's like a 3-cipher kite, really easy. I think Dancer is just really, really strong. She has whether you speed up or slow down, the game is mostly about speed. So yeah, those boxes go kind of hard. And also she can use the what is it, like a plie out of it, and oof, you can double plie, and that gets you out of a lot of situations. Like for example, I know a lot of dancers put down in that one tent area in Moonlit, and you can use that to get out of most situations as well. Okay, Doctor. I'm going to put her B tier. I think Doctor is really niche. She's really annoying to deal with for certain hunters, but for other hunters, she is the easiest pickings of all time. I remember they had to buff her recently so that with chip damage hits her, she also gets a small movement speed buff, but it's not enough for her. Even with all the veterans and the infinite healing and stuff like that, if you're the one being chased, a lot of doctors like to camp pallets, but at least for the characters that I play, it's not that big of a deal for most hunters that try to bait you through it. Like, you're literally mind gaming every single pallet, and I don't think that's a great way to play it if you're on a timer. You can bait a lot of hunters into getting pallet stunned, but I think a lot of hunters, especially at the higher tiers, wise up to that, and they'll either bait you back out or use their abilities to flush you out from under that pallet. For example, a bonbon can flush you out of it, a hermit can just stun you, a clerk can just record you dropping that pallet, and then it wouldn't matter for her. I'm really referencing all the hunters that I play, so the tier list might look different for someone else who mains a different set of hunters, but for me, this is my tier list. So I don't think Doctor is that strong. She's really niche against certain characters. Like against Dream Witch, she's great. Against Hermit, she's great if she's not first chase. She has a lot of like really niche situations that help her out, but all in all, against most hunters, I don't think she's that great. Embalmer, B plus. I would say he's B plus. I think that like Embalmer is also one of those really niche characters that I don't think is amazing, but he has a lot of really quirky situations. Like you can get a free rescue as an Embalmer off yourself, which is really good. And you can also do some really crazy late game stuff by embalming your teammates from across the map. So I think that he's really strong in that sense, but he himself does not have a lot of kiting options. He's pretty much a raw kiter, and he doesn't like he has nothing to help himself. The coffin is not a kiting tool. It is a rescuing and like a really situational tool. So I think that Embalmer is okay, but he's not great. That being said, like it's not like he doesn't have his uses. I've seen a lot of embalmers embalm people right outside the door at the end of the last kite, and that wins them the game a lot of the times. It's just a matter of like, can you make yourself useful to the team for the first 2 or 3 minutes where people are already doing stuff? I think there's a lot of other survivors that just offer more utility than he does during the most crucial parts of the game. The most crucial parts are like the first 60 seconds and then the last 30 to 60 seconds. Like the middle part is important too, but a lot of it's decided usually within the first minute. All right, next, Enchantress. I would say she's A tier. That mini harassment is so annoying. And I think that like she herself is a decent kiter, and she can do okay rescues as well. I feel like a good Enchantress isn't amazing because a lot of hunters can get around her, but a really good Enchantress who knows what she's doing can just hold you off for quite a while. Certain hunters have problems getting around that, like a clerk. If you stun her like with that mini stun 4 or 5 times, there's nothing she can do to fight back really except build up that anti-stun. Hermit, if you use a hermit against her and she soaks up damage, the more times she gets hit, the more stacks she's going to get. So she's going to have a ton of stacks on hermit. I mean, she's still not able to fight back that hard, but I feel like because she's not able to fight back because her range is so small on that. But she does have a really, really good tight kiting situations against. All in all, I think she's at least better in general compared to Dr. Embalmer and Weeping Clown. Melly, Queen Bee. I love Melly. She's great. I think she's one of the best survivors out there. I think that Melly is probably one of the best survivors because of all the utility she can do. I know she has a couple of hard counters, like Bonbon's a pretty good counter to her, and Night Watch is a good counter. And I think for her in particular, like the bees just offer so much utility. They can block Axe Boy's fireballs. They can block Jack Foggy Blades. They speed her up. They act as a pallet if you just go through certain areas. Like even if you don't have a pallet to work with, you can just leave her bees there and slow the hunter down. You can use it to help rescue by pushing the hunter out of the way when they're on hit recoil. I've seen Melee like lock hunters down just by pushing them into a wall with their bees, and then they have to deal with that. Yeah, it's just such a great kiting tool. Also, she can put the little goo on the window to help out survivors without even having to be there. Like that goo actually does save survivor lives a couple of times. So I think all in all, like the downsides of Melee are you can see her a little bit after she leaves your line of sight, but it's not that big a deal for most hunters that can already do that in a lot of situations. For example, if they're just holding onto a peeper or something, or they can probably predict where you're going to go based on the path that you're taking. So Melly, she's the whole package. She's a support, she's a harasser, she can do whatever. Kurt, honestly, Kurt's kind of annoying to deal with. I don't know about Kurt, but I would probably put him here in A tier as well. He's very, very hard to deal with if he's the first survivor that you're looking for. Because if a Kurt is good at hiding, he can literally hide between two blades of grass because of how small he is and just crouch there. I have bad eyesight, so I have trouble finding him. There's a couple of hunters that can deal with this a little bit easier, such as the Ant. He doesn't even show up on peepers when he's in that small mode. He doesn't show up in a lot of things. The only downside is that when it gets that page, it makes a little bonking sound. So hunters will eventually get to know. Usually Kurt's prime the page, decode a cipher 50%, and then just take that page and then pop the cipher. So it really depends. Or they can just hold on to the page. Most Kurts will hide until the first chase starts. That way they won't be the first chase themselves. And Kurt is so good at hiding. I've known hunters to just waste the first 60 seconds, which would normally be a first chase, just looking for a Kurt who's hiding. That, like, if he does get caught out, he's kind of useless. He's dead in the water because he has no kiting abilities. He doesn't have anything to help himself out. So he is dead in the water. If he does get caught, he would need a lot of support. The big thing is, though, if you know how to hide, you will do well as Kurt. First officer, I'm going to put him in S tier. I think First Officer is actually one of the best survivors in the game. The Pocket Watch is kind of crazy. He's so good at juking the hunter out. That Pocket Watch, even if he does get hit, and if he goes down in the Pocket Watch, it gives him tide. Like, I think that's crazy. It gives him tide for 5 seconds. It's a long time. It's very, very easy for him to rescue if he's trying to rescue the chair. If at the very least, he can dodge most hunters that are trying to double hit him, and then maybe force a basic hit to come on him before he gets the rescue off. Not to mention, if he is the first chase, like, good luck for most hunters. And if he does go down during that first chase, like, he gets to be on that chair for so long. I know the First Officer has a passive that lets him sit longer on that chair, but also a lot of First Officers take that one trait that lets him sit even longer. It's like, he can be on it for almost 2 minutes. So you can finish all the ciphers in the game in 2 minutes. It only takes about a minute to do a cipher, and to walk to another cipher and complete that. Like, if you get cipher rush just by having a First Officer on the chair, the hunter is going to be in bad shape. Forward, I might reconsider. It depends on who's playing them, right? A lot of these characters are like, who is playing this character? Because I've seen a lot of really good forwards, but I've seen a lot of bad forwards too. Forward kind of works the same way as any other harasser, kind of in the same category as batter, except he's a little bit riskier. If anything, like, I would put him in A+ tier because of how slow his decoding is. I think that Forward has a couple of issues being too risky as a character. For example, when I play Hermit, I usually just put static underneath me so he can't charge me, or I just stun him and attack him first. He has to be relatively close to do his harassment, and I mean, he runs the same risk as batter of getting too close to the hunter. I just think that for Forward in general, though, like, because he can do it a little bit more often with the football, it's a long football. And his stuns can last up to like 6 to 8 seconds, depending on how hard he hits you and how much stun reduction that you have. But if he hits you with that full football, like, he can get anyone rescued for sure. He's also a really good kiter. If he needs that football to transition, he can do that too. He vaults so fast. Like he and Batter, oh my goodness, they over that window in less than like half a second, less than half a second. It's so fast. Next survivor is Gardner. No, not A tier. I'm gonna put her. I honestly don't think Gardner's that good. I had to think about it again twice because I was like, okay, well maybe her shield can be a good rescue, or like maybe she's veteran's, but I don't know, with her chair breaking thing. She runs too much of a risk for too little of a payout, unfortunately for her. And I think that that is so unfortunate. Like, I had a gardener try to harass me the other day. She literally has to be on the chair, and the chair doesn't break instantly if she's trying to break it in front of you. You have to be on it for like 2 seconds, and it's enough for like hit recoil if they're not holding onto a survivor, but you have to dodge a lot to make the hunter miss, and if you want to give the survivor enough time to struggle out, because it takes them like only about 1 second to fix that chair, and then most of the time they can just put them right back on. Because if you're carrying a survivor and you attack with it and you hit someone, there's no hit recoil on that. They can just hit you once again. So like, and she has to be in your face to get that chair. Like if she's doing the chair, you know exactly where she's going to be. So I don't think her harassment is good enough to warrant her taking that risk. That's my biggest issue with Gardner. The shield is nice, but it's one, it has a cooldown, and two, it still gives the hunter presence. So sometimes I just hit her, or I can just chip it off with a bomb or something like that. Either way, like as long as it gives presence, like I'll take that hit. It's she's not that great. Like she doesn't have anything else to help her kite really except that shield, and it's just not that great. Andrew, B tier. I think Andrew is pretty good against certain hunters. I mean, he can use his shovel to get rid of the hermit charge or to dump an ant off of him. A lot of survivors can't do that, but I think like he's still got to come out to rescue. And I've terror shocked plenty of Andrews. He has such fast rescuing speed, but compared to the other rescuers, I don't think that really matters. As long as you like bait the hit out or get the rescue off in the first place, most of the time you're not playing that do I get terror shocked game. Usually the fight happens right before that. Yeah, he can rescue from basement if you consider, oh wow, I can just play Priestess instead, and then they also have a one way out of the basement. So I think that Priestess is just like Gravekeeper but better. I think Gravekeeper, that shovel, it's not that great. The only annoying thing is that it sometimes confuses the hunter, since the graphic on that is kind of nuts. But again, he's one of those survivors where if the hunter decides to attack him, they get a little bit of presence from that too. So even if you shovel twice, the hunter's going to have their first presence. It doesn't make you that much quicker, and the only thing you can do to kind of get some distance is to put yourself under a pallet. Yeah, so honestly, like, he's okay. He's not that bad of a survivor. It's just that other survivors are much better than him, unfortunately. Lawyer S tier, dude. He got the buff of the century. It's kind of nuts. I don't think he needed all that. But Lawyer went from being one of the worst characters in the game to one of the best. And the reason for that is because of that movement speed increase. I think it's like 4.3% at max or something, but that's crazy. He's almost as fast as most hunters just by running. Like a lot of hunters just can't catch up to him because of how fast he goes. And it builds up no matter what you're doing. Like I think interaction speed, you can just vault a window like 3 or 4 times to build that up. Decoding speed, he can increase. He's literally the jack of all trades that has it all in spades. And the map, it's impossible to catch him if he's using that map like in the hospital or on the backside of church or something like that. The map is stronger than you think. It's a mind's eye thing if you communicate it with your team, except you can use it whenever you want. It doesn't slow down the interaction speeds of the hunter or anything like that, but it lets you know where he is at the start so you can avoid him right off the bat. If you need to get to a better hiding spot, a better kiting spot, if you want to just stack up a little bit of your stats, like he can pad all his stats. It's kind of crazy. He is just too good at everything, because he's faster than any other survivor at it. Just by being good at something, he doesn't have anything that can harass the hunter or anything, but he's just naturally faster. And that makes him one of the best survivors in the game. and he can't get terror shocked. So like you don't have to take that risk when he's doing the interaction speed. Lawyer is just too good at everything. I think Lawyer needs a nerf, to be fair. I think they did recently nerf him in a patch, so I haven't seen him too often. The Lawyer that I know is still quite annoying. Little girl, I would say A, straight A tier. The little girl pages used to be a nightmare to deal with because they would backfire on her pretty hard. But nowadays, if you're good at little girl, you can cut the hunter for a long time. Imagine the little girl pages as like a mini Enchantress stun, but it gives you a little bit more distance than that. She can also latch on to survivors, which is pretty good actually. You can extend a kite just by latching yourself onto a survivor after you get rescued. Or after she rescues you, sometimes she just latches on to help you with that kite. And she can also teleport across the map. Not a lot of survivors. Like the only other survivor that can get across the map like little girl can is Priestess. And she needs another person at the other side to like respawn to the portal before she can go through. Yeah, it's a two-way portal, but for little girl, you usually only need it one way if you get to a safe position. The assistance with kiting is okay if a little girl is really good with it. You can use it in a lot of really cool situations, like pushing hunters off a ledge or something, or just getting distance between you guys. I think there's no real downside to little girl. Yeah, I think little girl's decent. Lucky Guy? I don't know. I don't know about Lucky Guy. I don't think Lucky Guy's that great of a character. Unfortunately, he just doesn't have a lot of good things. Why would you play Lucky Guy when you can like, oh, you want the gun? Just play Coordinator. You want the perfumes? Just play Perfumer. You want the mechanic doll? Just play a mechanic. Like he's kind of he tries to be the jack of all trades, but he doesn't have like the crazy extras that make the survivors strong. I think to be a really good survivor, you need to be really good at one thing, one or two things. Acrobat, a crazy kiter. Batter, annoying harasser. Antiquarian, annoying everything. Melee, annoying kiter. Like first officer, amazing rescuer. Lucky Guy's just not good at any of that. He's like, he can adapt really well. You don't need adaption. You need like a good team comp for a team to work. And Lucky Guy just doesn't fit the bill for any of those things. Magician, I would put in A minus. I think Magician is pretty good. He's got decent kiting, but that's about it. Like, do you need anything else? I personally find him a bit more annoying than other hunters, but I don't think that he's got anything super crazy that sets him apart. Also, you can still see his trails while he's invisible. The only thing is he's get that little movement speed boost. I just don't think like Magician has that many upsides aside from the wand. I use my clones for blocking areas too. Yeah, you can use them to block them, but like the hunters usually just hit the clone to get through it, and there's no hit recoil for hitting the clones. They just disappear. Hunters don't really have to worry about that too much. Lobster's right, basically a flywheel. It's basically a flywheel, but if you aren't perfect with it, you can still get hit. Like, I mean, the same goes with flywheel. So yeah, I guess it's basically flywheel on the 3-second cooldown. It just, flywheeling 3 times though, I think it's okay. That's why I put him in A tier, because his ability is great for himself. It's just not, it's not like a support ability. Like, Enchantress can use her stun to harass the hunter, to kite, but also she can use a 3-stack to rescue from someone. The same with all these other A tier characters. So that's why I put them at the bottom of A tier. These characters can all use their abilities in multiple situations. But Magician, like, his rescuing ability with the wand is kind of mediocre if he gets caught out early, especially if he has Wanted Order or something like that. Mechanic. She... bottom of A tier, I would say. Because, like, she's not good at kiting. I think like my evaluation of her last time was a little bit too high, but I don't think I was wrong, because Mechanic is so annoying if you're trying to get a draw, because Mechanic literally can force draws with her mech bot. Even if you down the Mechanic, like her bot can still decode, albeit at a slower speed, but that's still like, if you just leave the bot on decoding while she's on the chair and she's taking the anti-chair thing where she can just stand on it longer, you can just leave her there and that bot will just decode the cipher. If she can do a decent kite at all, if you don't catch that bot out, she can just force a cipher rush to happen whether you like it or not. The second thing about Mechanic is that she's not great at kiting, but It's just the doll. Like the doll is the whole thing, and her being able to work with it on the chair is crazy. If she's not the first chase, she's decoding two ciphers at the same time. If she is first chase, she can decode the cipher after she's already on the chair and do that entire cipher, or prime it for the next person to get there. She's the only one who can do stuff like while she's on that chair. Like, if the lucky guy has a mechbot controller, he actually can't control the doll while he's on the chair himself. Yeah, the Fall from Grace mechanic got the decoding debuff on her after it's... I think they added it like a year ago or so. It was every time someone takes damage, she gets a decoding speed decrease, as well as her bot. So, like, in the upper tiers where survivors are really good at avoiding the hits in the first place, I don't think that's a big issue for her, but... in the lower tiers, she's absolutely not going to work. That because survivors in the lower tier, I feel like a lot of people say it's like, oh, hunter side or survivor sided. In the lower tiers, it is a bit more hunter sided, and then the higher tiers, it's a bit more survivor sided. So all the survivors are even stronger in the upper tiers, but all the like all their abilities are just kind of, they work well because they're actually using them properly compared to the lower tiers, which sometimes they don't even use their abilities. Mercenary, actually, I'm going to give him A tier and not S tier anymore. It used to be how long he could stay up was crazy, because he could literally just take the hit and then go straight for the door or like body block 2 or 3 more times. I still think Mercenary is strong with 3 pads, but with all the debuffs that he has, like the decoding speed debuff, the healing debuff, like I don't think Mercenary is that great anymore. I still think he has his uses. As a rescuer, I would still rather have Mercenary come rescue me than anyone else. But like the additional effects, like of staying up or like being able to take that extra hit, that was so crazy. I didn't think it would be as big of a deal as it was. But now that I've played against a lot of mercenaries and haven't had to deal with him constantly going, it's not a big deal for me anymore. I was like, this is surprisingly really bad for him. It's just like these small little changes to these survivors actually goes such a long way for hunters that tried to catch them. It's so he was ruined. Literally, this small change kicked him out of S tier. He wasn't able to stay up for 10 seconds. Now he's only able to stay up for 5. But those 5 seconds are a nightmare to deal with, especially in the end game. If you're the first chase on Mercenary and you get a hit on Mercenary and then you chair him first and then he gets rescued, even if you hit them and the survivor that's rescuing him doesn't have tide, he literally has like built-in tide for himself. But now it's just a mini tide that doesn't work that great. So I'm more inclined to first chase Mercenary nowadays. Mind's Eye B tier. I don't think like anyone's going to contest the Mind's Eye B tier. I think being able to see the hunter is nice. I think Mind's Eye is B tier. She does have really good decoding. I think that her Cane tap is okay. Most hunters will just drop everything they're doing and say, I'm going after Mind's Eye now. And, you know, to be honest, I'm guilty of that too, because she's such an easy chase. Not only is she an easy chase, but she's easy to find too. If you listen closely, like, this is why I wear headsets. I don't know if this works on mobile either, but I can hear which direction, at least, she's tapping her cane from. So I know exactly where to hunt next. So I think that revealing yourself by tapping your cane is really, really tragic when you're a decoder who sucks at kiting and mostly relies on not being found. A lot of the time spent is spent traveling from one cipher to another, especially if you get pushed off a cipher. Even if hunters like are chasing someone else at the start of the match, sometimes they'll just chase the Mind's Eye right afterwards as soon as they find her, because she's so easy and she's such a high value target. If you're a high value target, you need to be able to hide or like do something that makes you harder to catch. So like Lawyer can't be Terror Shock, plus he gets that movement speed boost. Mechanic has a doll, so even if she does get caught, it's not a big deal. Explorer hides super, super well. But Mind's Eye is like, what do you have? Like, you have the tap of the cane, but that's about it. And I don't think that's enough to stop most hunters from catching her. Novelist? Low-key A tier. Well, let's just move Mercenary down a little bit more, because I think that nerf like really destroyed him. I actually think Novelist is kind of cracked. I don't know if he's S tier or not, because no one plays this dude. I don't know why. I'd never seen Novelist in my games for some reason, and I don't know why. I think his ability is actually really, really useful and is really, really good in team matches too, because he can coordinate. Like, I'm sure everyone's been done to this before, but he'll switch places with you under a pallet and just slam you in the face. It's super annoying. I can't handle it. It's one of the most toxic survivors, but I think that, like, if you want to run a harasser team, Novelist is definitely it. He gets his first switch really, really quickly too, but it still builds up relatively quickly. And the switch is just super powerful. Like, if you're ever on top of something and they're below you, or if you're on one side of the window and they're on the other, the switch is so good. Like, I haven't seen anyone really utilize it that effectively, but I can think of a couple of scenarios where it could be overpowered, which is why I'm putting him in A and not S tier. If I do manage to see like a really good novelist kind of run me through, I'll be like, okay, maybe I do put him in S tier. Also, you can just swap places against a camping hunter. He can swap places and get a free rescue off. Painter is like the only D tier survivor, I think. I honestly don't think Painter is that good. He doesn't have a lot of really good abilities. The painting itself is okay. There are just so many situations where this painting doesn't work out. The painting, so many painters just put it down expecting the hunter to see it, but it's positionally based for the hunter. So if my camera's not turned towards it, I'm not going to get stunned by it. And a lot of painters make the mistake of not knowing like exactly where I'm looking, because I don't have to look. You literally have to put it right in front of me, or like force me to hit you, and then you can use the painting if you want to use it that way. Like, the painting itself, I don't think it's that great. It only lasts about maybe 2.5 seconds, maybe 3 seconds. It's just not good enough. I could give him C tier. But then, like, who would be D tier? Let's not have a D tier then, because I don't think anyone would fit into D tier at this rate. It would suck to be the only one in D tier. And I love Edgar. I think he's a really interesting ability, but oof, is it not great? They need to change it just a little bit before I can move him up a tier. Otherwise, like, his kiting is mediocre. Him being on a chair so he can rescue it early or late, it doesn't really matter. Like, it still ticks down for him. It's saved wherever it ticks last. So, like, survivors don't have to feel pressured, but you should still feel pressured to rescue him off the chair if he's going to sit there the whole time. Yeah, I just don't think there's a lot of great situations for him to be used. I don't think he's been used in any of the competitive tournaments either. They might have, but I would say it's very, very rare. I would never see a painter, I don't think, in the last half a year of competitive gameplay. That's like tournament gameplay, not ranked. So next is Patient. I think Patient's S tier. Emil is crazy with it. He's kind of like the Acrobat. He's like a different version of Acrobat. Pretty much anything that can get you through crazy spots. The birdcage in hospital, that one area in Moonlit by Fourth Stop. Anything that can, like, get out of jail free card. His grappling hook is just too good. He can hook up to the second story in Leo's memory, and he's just out of jail free. There's only a couple of hunters that can really catch up to him, like Lucino. All in all, he's just kind of out of there most of the time. He has no real downsides, and if he's together with Psychologist, he gets that little bonus movement speed buff. I've actually seen that win games. Imagine making like a duo comp specifically for a game, and then it actually matters. Like, this isn't Zyra Khan. Like, this is Emil, Ada. Their ability is quite strong, one that's unique to these two survivors. So I think that that's really interesting. The grappling hook is an S tier ability. Easy dub. Perfumer, I'm gonna say B tier. Perfumer is not that great in my opinion. I'm sure you guys have seen the clips. Back in the day, she used to be crazy, but I think nowadays anything that feeds presence to the hunters is just like a big no-no. And she has to take that hit, feed presence to the hunter, and then perfume back. There are some that can like frame perfect it, but even if you do frame perfect it, like me as a clerk main or like a hermit main that just spreads the damage out anyways, or like a bonbon that can just place the bomb when you're about to come back, I'm gonna slurp up that presence real quick. The only real situation she has, like dropping out of hospital's second story and then perfuming back up, or you can do that in a lot of different places, in Lakeside, in Chinatown, anywhere with the 2 stories, she's really powerful. It only buys her a little bit of time to redo that loop. Assuming that the hunter doesn't catch up to you and just hit you again, it's not going to do that great. In addition to that, she's slow to heal. There's a lot of hunters that can deal with her pretty easily. I would say she's pretty decent against hunters that are complete at the start. So a Bloody Queen or an opera singer, she's pretty good against those people. But against everyone else, it's not really happening for her. Postman, A tier. I would say Postman's actually a really decent survivor. His supporting ability is really, really good. The different letters, like the Tranquility letters, I think if you do the math, it makes him one of the strongest decoders in the game if you add up the bonus for both himself and another survivor, assuming that neither of them are being chased. He has a letter for everything. I think that makes him really good. Plus, he's got Wick to help him kite just a little bit. It's not great, but it does help him a little bit. All his letters are useful in some way or another. I can think of multiple situations where they come in handy. I don't think like he's worthy of S tier just yet because he also is kind of an easy catch. The letter is great, but it's on a minute long cooldown and it also has travel time on it. Wick has a pretty low cooldown, but it's not that slow, and it's not like a stun. It just slows down the hunter just a little bit. So if the hunter has an ability to get across that, it's not a big deal for them. If Victor did a little bit more, he would be an S tier, but for now, I'm just gonna leave him an A. Like, he's kind of similar to Barmaid in that support. Like, his situations for supporting are niche. So if you just keep throwing Tranquility letters out, I guess you could do it that way. But I think then you might as well just take a different survivor at that point. Priestess, S tier. This easiest S tier of my life. She's been S tier forever. The best survivor in the game, in my opinion. These portals are a nightmare to deal with. She is probably the strongest survivor, in my opinion, at least. Like, the long portal, get out of jail free card if I've ever seen it. Plus, it just wins games on its own. If you have a tied Priestess and she rescues you and takes you through the long portal, like, you get so much distance, especially on the larger maps like Lakeside or Moonlit, where it takes a good minute just to get to the other side of the map. That Priestess long portal is a game changer. You can also add the smaller portals on their own are no joke either, especially the lineups where you can line up the Priestess portal underneath a pallet, like the ones that can force the hunter to teleport. I'm not that great of a Priestess, even though I do play her, but you can like force teleport hunters because their hitbox is bigger, while survivors can get across them because they're smaller. And I think that's really, really overpowered. I've seen him do it to like a Galatea before. She's so good at rescuing from the basement. Best basement rescuer, hands down. She's just everything, except decoding. But you don't really need to decode if you're just running support the whole game, right? The portals, they also stun the hunter for like a good second and a half, depending on how long the portal is. I believe they changed that. But that's more than enough time for most survivors to get to another window or pallet or what have you. She can also port downwards from two-story areas. For example, like in Hospital, she's going to port down, she's going to port forward, she's going to vault a window. She can do everything. Like, she's just everywhere. Trying to catch a Priestess in Hospital is so difficult. Prisoner, I'm going to get Prisoner A tier. I didn't think Prisoner was that great. He's pretty good, like pretty solid, especially at Cypher rushing. So the advantage of Prisoner, I feel like this isn't spoken out enough. The fact that he can connect ciphers together is actually a huge buff. Like, some people are like, oh, he connects ciphers together, but it reduces the decoding speed, so it's about the same. That's not true. The biggest thing about Prisoner connecting the ciphers together is that he can stay on one cipher the whole game. Probably the safest cipher. Like, if he's just in the middle of Hospital decoding all the other ciphers from his one cipher, you reduce the amount of time you have to travel from one cipher to another. I think that's his biggest strength. Because if you're not traveling, you're not risking exposing yourself going into an open area. You can constantly decode. So like, if we just take the time, Mind's Eye compared to Prisoner, like, what is it, 102 compared to 150 for completing a cipher, Mind's Eye will definitely complete it faster. But if you're a Prisoner, you save the 15 seconds it takes to get to the second cipher while you're decoding. So I think that actually makes Luca really, really strong. He has a self-defense zapper, the little taser thing, and he's one of the few like decoding survivors that don't have a vaulting speed debuff. Mechanic has a terrible debuff. Mind's Eye has an awful debuff, literally the worst in the game. A lot of these survivors have bad vaulting speed, but not Prisoner. He can kind of just go. The best feeling as a Prisoner main is successful double cipher pop. Yup, it feels good. for ciphers that are normally impossible to get, he can also reach those. And also, like, hunters have to take the time to cut off the cipher if they don't want him to decode. And that's enough time for some survivors to transition to another area. Live, laugh, love Luca. We got a lot of Luca fans in here. Professor, I will say A tier. Professor is actually quite good. I think that Professor is probably one of the strongest survivors too, but not S tier because he's a kiter, but his kiting is conditional on him being able to have amazing reflexes. Like if the hunter baits out an attack and he uses his block, he's kind of done for. He's not like Patient where he can just grapple out, no questions asked, and then get out of jail free. Like Professor has to actively be aware of the hunter at all times, be aware if they're trying to bait out an attack, and then hit his block button within a second of that frame. Or it's like half a second of the attack. It is good though because his shield does come back. Plus he can give the shield to other people, so that is nice. Anything where you have to actively do it rather than you can just do it early and not have to worry about it, I feel like it puts you in A tier. It's not like get out of jail free like some people. So I'll probably be leaving him there. Prospector, I don't know when, but at some point I think they nerfed Prospector. I don't remember. A plus. I'm being a little bit more strict with who gets an A plus and who gets an S tier now because I feel like my S tier was a little bit too much last season. But Prospector, probably one of the best harassers in the game. I feel like Norton is kind of strong. He can move faster towards metal objects like ciphers or gates or stuff like that. It can come in handy at really unexpected moments and give him just the small boost that he needs. The magnets themselves are so annoying for harassment. If you're not careful with them though, it can backfire on you. But if you are good with those magnets, you can stun the hunter for a long time, and it helps your survivors get away really hard. And those things come back really quick. Like, I feel like they're less than the 60-second cooldown, and he can store up to 3 of them. So he has those stuns come in handy right off the bat when you need them. Unlike like Enchantress, who has to build them up. So I think that Prospector is really good. Like as a kiter, as a harasser, just if you are a harasser that can at least harass, you're in the A tier. So Prospector is one of the better harassers in my opinion. Psychologist, some people say she's A, like I will say she's A minus at best. Like she just doesn't have anything to help her. She's only got raw kiting. She has a really unique ability, the Wi-Fi healing. I think Psychologist is like, she's tanky, which is good. She doesn't have any downsides really, aside from just not having anything to work with herself. The stress level is something hunters have to deal with. A lot of hunters will wait out the stress if they can, but that's like a free 15 seconds of kiting, like where the hunter cannot hit you a third time. They'll have to wait for the stress level to completely go away, or if they do end up hitting you in time, then they're going to have like a little bit of an extra stress so that if someone without tide rescues you, they have to hit you twice. And I think that's a really big deal. A lot of hunters will just wait the stress out. Also, she can Wi-Fi heal. It's really good if you need to get a really fast heal off on someone. If a mercenary is going to do your rescue, he can rescue 2 or 3 times despite getting hit because of the Psychologist. She'll just heal him from wherever she's doing the cipher from. If I'm a hunter, she's not that high of a priority as a first chase target because I do be slurping up that presence, but if there's a better chase target, I don't really mind going after someone else. She's not like the biggest deal to have to deal with. I feel like she doesn't pose a huge threat, but she's also not a low priority target either. She's A tier, somewhere in the middle. Seer, S tier. This owl do be kind of nuts. Anything that can just block a hit, plus you get it at the start of the match, is kind of crazy. Because a lot of hunters like rely on their blink to down the survivor right after their first chase. And if you can block their blink hit or their second hit to extend the chase by a little bit, it's so good. It buys you so much time. It does give the hunter a little bit of presence, but I don't think that's a big deal. I remember when the Seer owl used to be 20 seconds. That was kind of nuts, but now it's only 8 seconds. Still a long time for wherever you need to transition. If you need to like force a rescue or something, the owl's pretty good. You need to extend someone's kite, it's pretty good. Like the owl is just so powerful. I don't think there's any other survivors out there that can do that. Maybe Puppeteer if he does come out. Thief, low-key really annoying. Like I think, okay, if we ever do like a toxic survivor tier list, Thief would probably be up there. I think Thief is one of the more annoying survivors. I don't think he's bad. The flashlight is quite annoying. I've played against like the number one Thief, Prison Potato, quite a few times. It's annoying to deal with him, but he's not unhandleable. Like there's some spots where you literally cannot deal with him. For example, at the broken carousel, some survivors can get an infinite kite there, which is really stupid. I think that like if you just back up, you'll be able to deal with Thief in a couple of ways. I don't think he really qualifies as a harasser because I don't think the flashlights are that great at harassing. They're only good for kiting. And although you can use them for harassing, you're taking a lot of risk onto yourself by doing that. It's not like a baseball bat where you can, or the cricket bat that can just knock the hunter away, like a magnet that can just stun the hunter. It's very much so that you need to put yourself within harm's way, and the flashlight distance is just like, if it was a little bit longer, it would be OP. If it was a little bit shorter, it would be useless. So I think it's just like right the perfect distance to be annoying, but not overpowered. So I'm probably going to put him in A tier. Oh, also, I'm pretty sure he gives more skill checks to people, which increases decoding in general across the map. Annie, hidden OPS tier. I don't know why a lot of people haven't wisened up to Annie just yet, but she is kind of sick with it. She had a recent buff where she's able to see the lineup of her catapult. Back in my day, okay, we had to line those up based on different areas. Like I lined it up the birdcage one with the specific spike and the lamppost on my screen, and it just, oof, that was rough. But nowadays, if you hold down the button to place the catapult down, it'll tell you where they're gonna go. And the amount of places that are just overpowered for her are nuts. Like, she's pretty much strong on every map, maybe not Arms Factory, but every other map. Like anything to get you through a window, get you on the second story in different areas. She is just nuts. Nutty but nutty. I don't have a word for it, but she's crazy. Like, and not to mention, it's not just her. Like, I would put her above Patient and Acrobat because even though these two can get out of it themselves, she can actually support her allies and get them out of it as well. Not to mention, she's got a glider and a free item. I've had, like, you can get a pocket watch out of that, which is a 0.1% chance drop, and just give it to your allies to support them. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, I think that Toy Merchant is really slept on in a lot of cases. And you should definitely, I've almost wanted to ban her in a couple situations, but I feel like there's a couple of survivors that need banning more than she does. Wildling, I think, is A tier. I think Wildling is one of the best harassers and kiters in the game. But the fact that Wildling is like so bad at everything else, like his decoding speed is atrocious. I think it's one of the worst in the game. I don't think his healing speed is that great either. And plus, like the anti-tinnitus is okay. I don't think it has a lot of good uses if the hunter's really paying attention. And the boar is avoidable. It's not like an Antiquarian where she can just walk up to you and smack you. Like if he charges, he has to charge in a straight line. And so a lot of hunters that know where he's coming from can avoid that in one way or another. But whenever I see a wildling, I usually take like a hermit to stun him. So he's not a huge deal. Plus that boar gives presence. It doesn't give him enough of a speed boost if he's using it to get away from you. So the boar is great. It's very, very strong. Probably one of the strongest things in the game. But like the downsides to him are just so overarching that it becomes problematic for him to be in S tier. I do think he's really good though, like A+ for sure, because like he's really, really good at what he does, which is harassing and like even rescuing to some extent, but he's so bad at decoding. So I think like he's one of the rare cases where the drawbacks of the character kind of are so noticeable that I would drop him down a tier just for that. Aeroplanist, I don't know. I think I would put him in A tier too. I can't be certain because I don't see this guy very often. I don't know why no one plays this dude, but I think he's got a lot of really good abilities. Like he's usable, but I just don't know where. Like he can get up in 2-story areas the same way that Patient can. I think like a lot of people crash into things or like aren't playing him correctly, or like sometimes if you can just get unlucky and his ability doesn't work. Like, but I think he's pretty good. Like his abilities aren't that bad theoretically. I've never had problems catching them, but like I have had seen Aeroplanist do crazy things with his airburst things, specifically the one that propels him upward. Like he's flying, like, but he doesn't really move very far in it, so he's still very catchable. I think Aeroplanist is good, but he's not amazing. Like, I don't know. I just put him in A tier. No one plays this guy, so I can't really make too much of a judgment about him. Cheerleader, hardcore S tier. This is probably the most broken survivor to be released in the last since Antiquarian. But yeah, Cheerleader is so broken. I think she's probably the best kiter in the game and also one of the best supporters. Like her ability to reduce cooldowns is good. It depends on her team count though, right? Like her herself as a kiter is crazy. She can get to the speed boost is so fast, and if you hit her, she's even faster, and if she has broken window, she's even faster across the map in a second. Kind of nuts. And there is a downside that she's slower when she stops moving, but it's not like she's completely immobile, for one. And number two, if you are using the ability, you're using it to transition normally to a pallet or window. So by the time her ability wears off, she has so much distance on you, and she's probably by something that she can abuse. So I think that Lily is so crazy. Not to mention, she can give speed boost to allies. Like that speed boost, I've seen her put it on other people before. I'm not exactly sure 100% how it works. I just know it's incredibly annoying. S tier for sure. Lily is kind of nuts. Composer, A tier. I don't think Composer is that great, but he is technically like one of the better decoders. I think he doesn't really have any decoding downsides, and he has a kiting ability that helps him get away from the hunter. It helps him transition. It's kind of like a mini Cheerleader ability. Like Cheerleader's ability is just so much quicker. Composer can get away if he uses his ability early, at least to help him transition. It's just not good enough in a lot of situations. I feel like his kiting ability, like the taser is good for prisoner to get you that little bit of a second, but the composer speed boost, like I don't know. I feel like it's not enough. Like the taser helps you, like you can use it to harass the hunter to make them drop a survivor. You can use it to turn a tight corner, but this thing, like I feel like if it doesn't slow down the hunter, if it doesn't hurt the hunter in one way or the other, it just speeds you up. You need more than that as to protect yourself as a decoder. Like I'm not as afraid of it as I am like something else. Like it's not quick enough as a Cheerleader run, if you get what I'm saying. Flywheel or broken windows, I feel like both have their really unique situations. It really depends on the hunter. Like if I'm against a Naiad or something, I usually take flywheel because you can flywheel the water. But if I was against like a hermit or something, like I'd probably take broken windows instead. Or if I was against a bloody queen, take flywheel. If you're against like Chino or something, take broken windows. There's situations for both. A minus. And his decoding speed, like you have to play that game if you're really good at it. I don't think it's that hard to beat it on the hardest difficulty, but also it even at it fully stacked, assuming you're not the first chase, because a lot of hunters will look for composer first, you're still slower than the mind's eye, I think, unless you're fully stacked, but you have to complete like 2 ciphers, at which point you should be done by then. And I think it's like lawyer does the same thing without having to do that game. So that's why I think lawyer is just better. Journalist, actually, I think is S tier. If Mercenary wasn't up here, like there aren't enough. She's taking Mercenary's spot in my opinion. The little Orpheus is kind of like a free rescue for her, because like, oh, you could attack her or you can attack the Orpheus. Either way, she's gonna get that rescue off because the hunter's gonna get a hit recoil. Even if you double hit, you have to hit her a 3rd time. So if you hit the little Orpheus and then you hit her, you have to hit her again to make her go down. And I think that's really strong. To be able to get a rescue no matter what, if you're careful enough with Journalist, you should be able to do it. She has stuff to protect herself, like the kiting angles. The kiting angles can actually support other people too. You use them as body blocks, or you can just use them to walk through pallets. Yeah, she has a lot of versatility. The angles are just kind of strong. The most important thing for her though is the rescue. Her rescuing ability is just nuts. I would say she's I don't know if she's better or worse than first officer. Probably better, because like first officer takes some risk. Like a random swing could down a first officer if he's not careful, or like it just hurt him early before he's able to get the rescue off. But a random swing on the Journalist is going to get her the rescue no matter what. There's nothing you can do about it. She's the old Mercenary where you need 3 hits from the hunter to do something about it. Whereas like first officer still only needs 2 hits. If he gets hit early, he can't come in for the rescue. It's not safe. And the last survivor, I think that's it. The newest one, I don't know anything about Lewis, but from what I've seen on the PvE, his abilities seem A tier. He doesn't seem overpowered, but he doesn't seem weak either. If the nerfs that I saw come in through on the PvE are affecting him, like he can't be in puppet form for as long near chairs, he would probably be B tier. But I think if they don't come through, I would probably put him in A tier. That's just my opinion though. But I think that he's really cool. Like his character design is really interesting, at least. Not that it counts for anything. I think that he doesn't seem overpowered. He seems pretty well balanced, like a high risk, high reward kind of guy. And yeah, I think that's it. So let me just reiterate for everyone that this tier list is made based off someone who's a hunter main. I do play Survivor. I have gotten to champion tier with it, but all in all, I'm a hunter main for the most part. So I kind of rate these guys by how annoying they are for the hunters that I play. So other hunter mains who are the same rank as I do might not rank these survivors in the same places because they play a different set of hunters. For example, someone who's really good at Night Watch might not see Melee as big of a threat because there are big counters to her. For example, Night Watch and Bonbon. But this is I try to make as objective as judgment as I can. So just take it with a grain of salt, what you will. And yeah. All right, that is my Survivor tier list. I'm going to save and download this one. And then we're going to head over to the Hunter one. So stick around and then you'll get to see what I think of hunters. Although I do main certain hunters, I think I can objectively rank them. Hey everyone, it's Hikaru here. If you like that video, make sure to give the video a like and subscribe to the channel for more. And you can also hit the bell for more notifications about future uploads. I love you all. See you later.